Hello everyone, welcome back. You are watching That Car Chick, and today I'm going to be showing you how to properly jack up your car so that before you do any work on your car or go underneath your car, you know that your car is safely and properly jacked up and you're not going to get squished underneath it. Now, please, before we do anything, make sure that you have invested in a good jack and a pair of axle stands or however many axle stands you need, and do not attempt to replace axle stands with things like brick and wood, as I have seen one too many horror stories of people who don't properly jack up their car and then the car slips off and they get squished underneath. And trust me, it's not a pretty sight. I know it may seem like super uncool to say this, but safety first. You can get axle stands from anywhere. For example, I got mine from Halfords. They don't have to be like insanely expensive as long as they do the job and as long as they keep up the weight of your car. And when you are purchasing axle stands, make sure to look at the label to show how much this axle stand can hold. So for example, a pair of the axle stands I have can hold up to 2 tons. And don't get this confused with 2 tons per axle stand. If you look more closely, it says that each axle stand can hold 1 ton. Now, to calculate what sort of axle stands you need, all you need to do is simply take the weight of your car and divide it by 4 for each corner of your car. So let's take an easy number. For example, let's say my car weighs 2 tons. This means that each corner of my car roughly weighs half a ton, which means that if my singular axle stand can hold up to 1 ton, that is more than plenty for each corner. The same applies when you're buying a jack for your car. Again, always look at the label on your jack because it will always tell you how much it can hold, and it will also tell you the minimum height and the maximum height it can go to. So you want to make sure that you can find one that will actually fit underneath your car so the minimum height isn't too high. And you also need to find a jack depending on what you're going to be using it for and how high you want your car to be. And it's the same with axle stands. Axle stands will always have different sorts of heights and different purposes. So you can get really big ones to really jack the car up high, or like I've just got one that's quite small just for simple service and maintenance purposes. Now, the next most important part, other than having your correct axle stand and jack, is to make sure that you find your correct jacking points for the car. Now, jacking points on a vehicle will always differ slightly, but on the majority of vehicles that are under 2 tons, it will always be in this corner here by your wheel. You can see the jacking point here, which will always be a sticking out bit of metal that sticks out from the rest of the chassis of the car. But make sure to have a proper look underneath your car, and if you just grab the jacking point and wiggle it, you can just feel that that is a solid bit of metal and it is safe to jack your car up there. If you have a heavier car such as a van, the jacking point might be nearer the subframe and towards the inner bit of the car, and it might be a big square of metal that you can use as a jacking point. I'll also show you the rear because it's a bit of a better example. So if we go towards here and underneath the car, you can actually be able to tell a little bit easier where it goes from plastic trim to the jacking point to plastic trim again. And again, you can feel that it is a solid hard bit of metal, so that's how you can also tell it is a jacking point. Jacking points will not always be obvious, so as always, if you need to, you can use the internet to look up where your jacking point specifically is. But normally, as long as you jack it up on a solid bit of steel or metal underneath the car, you'll be okay. And make sure to avoid trying to jack the car up on rust spots and things like that, because oftentimes the jack will just break through and the car might fall on you. Okay, now that we've gone through some health and safety bits in the introduction, let's get to actually jacking the car up. Okay, so as you get your jack, you want to make sure you put it directly underneath where your jacking point is, leaving plenty of room for the axle stand to stand on the jacking points. Because if you put the jack directly in the middle of the jacking points, you're going to struggle putting the axle stand underneath the car as well. Once the jack is underneath the correct jacking point, start pumping the jack up and start slowly raising your car. Before you put the axle stand underneath the car, you want to make sure that the axle stand is at the correct height of how high you want your car to be jacked up, using the pin on the axle stand to secure the axle stand at the correct height. When you've got your axle stand at the height you want it to be and you've inserted the pin, always make sure to put the clip back into the pin to prevent the pin from sliding out and causing the axle stand to fall. Then, place the axle stand underneath the car at the correct jacking point. You always want to make sure that the jacking point is in the center of the axle stand, so when you lower the car onto it, the weight is evenly balanced on the axle stand. Once the axle stand is sitting securely underneath your car, you can then very slowly lower the jack onto the axle stand. Also make sure to never leave your car raised just on the jack, as the hydraulics in the jack could fail and the car could fall onto you. Always make sure that the weight of your car is on axle stands. And before you get underneath the car, you want to make sure that the axle stand is holding it properly. So first of all, have a feel of where the jacking point is on the stand. Then very simply, grab the axle stand and try and give it a bit of a shake. If the axle stand didn't move when you were shaking it about, you then know that it is firmly planted on the ground and you can safely carry on work on your car. And then just repeat this jacking up process on as many corners of the car as you need. So if you just need to take this wheel off, you can just leave just this side jacked up. However, if you want to go underneath the front of the car, you can jack up both fronts. If you need to go underneath anywhere else, you can jack up all four corners of the car. Now, to lower the car back onto the ground, simply reverse the process. Start by jacking up the car again off of the axle stand, making sure to use the correct jacking points. Once you've jacked up the car high enough, remove the axle stand, and then slowly lower your car off the jack. And there you have it. You have now mastered safely jacking up a car. So I better not hear of any crushed lungs or squished faces now that you have learnt from the professional. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you also enjoy safely working on your car. If you did enjoy the video, please do leave a like down below, and if you want to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button and then click the notification bell so you can be the first to watch my videos. And as always, please feel free to leave any questions you have down below in the comments. Thank you all for watching. That is it for now, and I'll see you all next time. But for now, peace.